Hey there everyone, and welcome to another Factorio Basse Tour. I'm Exterminator, and thank you so much for joining me. I am excited to go over this, and I hope you are too. This is a very, very huge, pretty magnificent base. Actually, very magnificent base. So this is S. Murphy's base. Excuse me, this is a 40K, actually I think slightly more than 40K science per minute, massive, massive belt base. As you can see, we are at about half the normal UPS, sitting at 32. So they did actually go to extreme lengths to make this UPS efficient as possible, and all things considered, it is still very UPS efficient and game performance efficient, considering the fact that it's 40K science per minute. If we look at our production here to start with, you can see a pretty solid 40K across the board here. From space science and all the rest of them here, except military, of course. That's fairly standard to not do military. Now, I do want to make a few notes. So the first one, not regards to the game, but I do apologize for being stuffy, and I may have to, there may be some like silent moments where I mute my mic or mute it afterwards to cough or something. I'm still recovering from a cold, but anyway, so that's the first note. Second one, and that is, this is the case with some bases, is that there's no mods used, but the resources are kind of cheated in a sense. So it's not like the base resources are cheated in, I suppose I should say. So if we look, I'm currently trying to reveal the map out here, but it's not working exactly how I would like, so I'm just going to change this really quickly. I had it set in a way I wanted, but that did not work. Sorry, I had this set, and then I didn't like it, so we'll just let that work. One thing we can do is go into the editor to look around. It's just not quite as easy. So the ore is cheated in, essentially, just because doing ore patches is, well, I mean, it's actually not really, it's kind of cheated in a way. So they like spawn in, so it's not like cheaty chests, but so they made like little teeny ore patches that are basically infinite. And then just did like a miner on each. So it is technically, like, it is mined. Really, so really the only cheaty part is that the resources themselves are infinite, which isn't really that weird, because once you get a high enough productivity, everything basically comes infinite anyway. And then also the fact that they don't actually have to like train in anything or like belt it from a patch aside from right here. But other than that, so it's not like they're like spawning everything from cheaty chests. From the ore forward, everything is produced, as far as I can tell. So we're gonna take a look around here. So this is red science. Let's just look at the whole map. So this thing is massive. It is kind of built in cells here in a way. It's very uniform. We do have some pretty crazy bus lines going on here. We can see here, obviously I will go look at it, you know, in person essentially. But if we start, so the red science is here, and it seems like for the most part the smelting is like the base ingredients. How they did this is that everything for a product, for the most part, except for a few exceptions, are made like all within the same build. So you can see they're feeding ore in here and then smelting it and then turning it into plate and then gears, and then the plate and the gears going to science. So it's all made here using direct insertion. And this is, of course, on purpose to help with UPS. So when we're in the editor, it doesn't actually, it's not actually actively working, unfortunately. But you can see all this stuff is working now, and it uses direct insertion basically wherever possible. And I'm just going to go ahead and see if that allowed me to do that, maybe. Kind of. I had the command working once, so it's still trying to reveal the map, I guess. There we go. Close enough. Okay. So here we go. So yeah, direct insertion wherever possible, either through chests, pass through, or directly into the machines, which we can see here. Anything that can be productivity is productivity as far as I can tell. Of course, the miners aren't, which makes sense because their mining productivity is like off the charts anyway. Beacon setup. So in terms of beacons, it is a fairly unique beacon setup in some cases. So like this one here is 7 beacons because we have the 2 modules in there. And then this one, so everything is a little bit different actually. So this one here is 6 beacon. This one here is 9 beacon. And then this one here is 7 beacon. I'm just basically doing the number of effect sources minus the amount of modules in the machine. And that's how many beacons. So kind of an interesting beacon setup here, but it does work. I mean, obviously everything works. We saw the production, everything is ratioed well. There may be some overproduction here and there, but for the most part, this is working really, really well. So we can see it's all passed through here up to, well, most of it anyways. So it revealed it there for a moment, but if we go ahead and continue upwards here, we can see this thing working. And then looking at the rest, I think we're just going to have to go into editor mode, unfortunately. So, because the problem is they don't have radars specifically because that will affect their UPS. So the reason there is no radars is because, of course, a ton of radars to cover this entire map would actually put a fairly big dent on UPS. So what we can do is kind of look at the builds. I mean, we don't necessarily need to see them running. We already saw the production. It's a little bit of a weird of a base tour. I looked up commands and couldn't find one aside from the one I just used to like actually reveal the whole map. And again, radars would kind of mess this up. So we can zoom in here though. So actually this is fine. So if we look here, we see that we have green science. So green science, it goes red, green, blue, etc., etc. So again, everything that the ores pumped in from the miner setup that we have, I think it's probably up here in this case. Yeah, so it's up here. And then it goes and is made into, of course, plate, which is then turned into the intermediate, such as copper cable, circuits, and then into inserters. Again, tons and tons of direct insertion. This is the like most UPS efficient way you can probably do this. And then really they're only using belts where they have to, like sending the ore through. And then of course it makes green science, which is sent actually very good utilization here of sharing the ore belt. So the green science is actually put onto the same belt as the ore and then sent through here, which is pretty nifty. So you can see it kind of happening over here. And then it's actually looping around and then through. So a lot of zigzags, but so they have that again, kind of a little bit of hodgepodge in terms of beacon setups, but it does definitely work. So that is green science. It's a massive build, as you can see. So we have red, green, labs are actually down here. So it kind of goes like up and then back down. And then, excuse me, so over here we have stuff for like rockets and stuff. We will get to that. I'm just kind of giving an overview. Circuits for what looks like this is just plastic and red circuits, which is then maybe belted over to like the furnaces and stuff for purple science. So we'll get to that. I'm just showing anything else that may be kind of lingering here. Oh, more rocket stuff, rocket fuel. So there's that. Let's move up to blue science. So blue science here, you can see it actually, again, everything is kind of centrally located here. It has the refining and stuff built in with it, which is pretty cool. Kind of a 1.5 type of builds here to supply this. Again, the ore just comes from here. Same type of deal with the oil. The oil just, you know, it's just a spawned in well, basically, and sent in. And again, because I mentioned it earlier, to confirm, the mining productivity is ridiculous. Like, the fact that the resource patches are infinite, I don't think matters at all in terms of legitimacy, because even if they were just normal ore patches, like, the mining productivity is through the roof. This is 1990% mining productivity. So to give an idea, a patch that is like, say, 100 million, which if you go out even just like not that far from spawn, you can get that depending on your resource settings. 100% productivity would be double that. It'd be 200 million. This is 19 times that. So this is ridiculous. Anyway, I just want to touch on that for this purpose. Really, the only cheaty-ish thing is that they're not having to like train in the resources, but I think that's fine in my opinion. So all the refining is done here. We have a total of 8, I think, refineries, all doing advanced oil processing. Or sorry, basic oil processing, because they don't really need heavy or light for blue science. And the petroleum goes in, is made into plastic, which is then turned into circuits. And sorry, it just zooms like really fast when I'm in editor mode, so it's a little jumpy. And then these are put into boxes, which is used as a pass-through to then make blue science here. Sulfur is brought in by belt through this production cycle up here, and then this one is brought in over here, so it's actually inserted on this end. And then these are shared belts of iron and copper, which come through into the smelting. Again, so much direct insertion. This helps a ton with UPS stuff. I mean, like I said, we were like 32 UPS. If they didn't do all these tricks that they did, then I don't even know what we'd be at. 20, 15, like 40K science per minute. We have to keep reminding ourselves, this is 40,000 of every single science aside from military per minute. That's ridiculous. That's almost 1,000 science a second. Obviously not quite, but it's up there. One of the biggest bases I've ever toured. So we have the red circuits again, and then blue science itself is kind of, I think, either up or at the end. So if we come up, yeah, so it's like at the ends of it here. So we have the circuits, and then the engines and stuff are made like or on the other side of it, essentially. So we have like a double engine setup here, and then these feed the ones below and these feed the ones up top. Again, direct insertion all the way around. Smelting into gears, pass through into engines, pipes, same type of deal. And then, again, engines and then steel here as well. So the designs, they did say that basically all these designs are their own. Maybe some took some inspiration from other high UPS or UPS efficient builds, but overall, this is their own designs, and this is really impressive. Like, I can't even imagine the amount of like testing and fiddling and brainstorming they went through to come up with these designs. Because it's easy enough to just take 2 assemblers and just boom boom, slap them down, you're good to go. But like coming up with, like, you don't just come up with this design. You don't just sit down and be like, oh, okay, this is what I do. Like, this definitely takes a lot of trial and error to get something like this. In terms of like arranging everything, getting the right beacon effects, the production ratios you need, all that stuff, routing all the belts through here. I believe the save has about 450 hours on it, if that's any indication, and they may have even spent time outside of the save testing stuff, so definitely a note there. This is very, very well thought out, and tons of trial and error went into this. So that's blue science, and then these are all sent over here. They did say like one regret with this potentially is that they use too many underground belts, so it's not as aesthetically pleasing as it could be on like the granular view like this. Obviously from this view it's pretty crazy, but from this view, since there's so many underground, you don't really get the crazy, huge bus lines of stuff that you can just see all above ground. But again, they use the undergrounds for, I believe, UPS regions. Although I kind of thought that like a straight line of belt, regardless of if it was underground or not, kind of just like the same thing. Maybe I'm just imagining that, but anyway, they did the underground belts there. So that's blue science. If we continue up here, continue up, blue science is a massive build. Blue science, yeah, look how huge this blue science build is. I mean, blue science, when you make it, just normally is a big build, so because it's a very slow production, and it actually only produces 1, whereas the others, we can't see it because we're an editor, but blue science, like, these produce 2 per cycle. Blue science is only 1 for some reason, so that's why this build is so huge. Speaking of huge builds, this entire freaking thing here is rails, which, I mean, it's not surprising. You need an absurd amount of rails for purple science, but like this is kind of nuts. So we have steel coming up here, which comes up over. Wait, is this just the steel build? I could have sworn I saw rails. I guess this is just steel. So okay, even more steel and iron. So much steel and iron. So much steel and iron. So all this is like, I mean, they say rails, but I definitely don't see rails made in here. So yeah, they're made over here. So I mean, they just have it labeled for like what it's for. So this is steel and this is steel for rails. All of this just for rails. I mean, we'll look at these builds, but just for rails. So this is mining, of course, into here, which goes into steel. Now, iron to steel is a 1-to-1 ratio with modules and the correct beacons and stuff. So that's why that's that way. Comes over, and we have a bajillion lines, blue belts of steel here, all feeding over. I mean, so even underground, this is pretty magnificent. Like if we just scroll up here, I mean, this is just so much steel. This is ridiculous how much steel this is. So that's all steel. And then this comes over to here where this is fed in. So we have purple science and stone actually share about, it looks like. Or is that stone? Oh, sorry, no, that's modules. I couldn't see. This is stone. So these are sent this way. Half the line is stone, half the line is steel on each one, which is then sent through and continued on there. But for this, it looks like maybe it goes around. So this comes in here. Actually, I want to follow this belt. So we come over here. Yeah, so these actually go like around, or some of them do anyway. So the rail is made 1 per 2 purple science machines. So again, stone and steel, double belts, because rail takes a ton of it. And then we have the iron going into sticks, again, just or directly in from local into this as well. And then that's, of course, directly inserted into purple science, which is also, of course, grabbing the modules and the stone furnaces and other things that, well, actually the furnaces are made here, the electric furnaces, but the modules are made here. And then also, if we zoom out here a little bit, so that's made there. This stuff is made over here for all of this. So the red circuits, some of the red circuits anyway, come in, go into the furnaces. Brick, again from local stone, is sent in here and sent into the purple science as well as the rail and the modules. And there's that. So that's all purple science. Same type of build like throughout the purple science build. Again, kind of a hodgepodge of beacon coverage here, but it definitely works. And then we have that. And then over here is, of course, the production for those red circuits that we just looked at. So and green circuits too. So green circuits, kind of a diagonal taper here. Very interesting beacon designs. I'm kind of fascinated by this. So this, if we kind of zoom out all the way, again, local oil, which is made into red and green circuits. I think it's just the reds that are sent out, so the greens here are for the reds. And then if we zoom all the way in, sometimes it's hard to tell if there's something else on that belt on the underground, so I have to zoom all the way in. But this is for the modules, so the greens are for the modules, and then greens, of course, for the red as well. And these are getting their red circuits from over here. Oh, those are side loading. Okay, now I see. I thought that was going the other direction. Yeah, so the red circuits are made like kind of on a build next to it and then sent into the modules. And there is that. So literally, like, this is nuts. Literally this entire, this is all for, oh, and this is all for purple science. And again, you can see, like, this purple science build extends from here all the way down to here. And this is beacon module too. You know, it's not like they're using like level 1 assemblers. Which at some point in their future there will be a base like that, but that'll tour. So that's purple science. Now we have to find the other sciences. This is not labeled. So that's rocket parts. Where's the yellow science? I saw it earlier. Sorry, on a base that's not mine. Sometimes it's hard to pick out where everything is. We can marvel in the glory of these builds, though. Okay, that's rocket fuel again. If need be, I could trace it back from the labs and find... Okay, so here we go. This is yellow science. This is yellow science. Okay, so like this whole... all these are yellow science. So over here, so we have yellow science off to the side here. The science build itself is actually fairly small. And then I feel like do you get 3 per? I forget, I'll have to check out of editor mode. But low density structures, which are a beast. Like these things, it's ridiculous how expensive these things are. So low density structures made here, double copper smelting because they take a huge amount of copper. And then plastic as well, directly inserting into here. And then they do take steel too, which is actually coming from above. We can see in this path through belt, which is coming from... Oh, sorry, it's coming from below. The pass-through belt goes all the way through. And that's steel. So wait, where the heck... Okay, so steel's made down here and then sent over. And then these are just the miners for copper. So we come up here, low densities again over and then into this. So the other ingredients needed for this are blue circuits, of course, which are... Well, that's for satellites. That's not blue circuits. So robot frames are made down here. And then modules for that. Where are the blue circuits made? They're coming from up above. I'm gonna have to play... So they're coming from below. Play a little hide and seek here with the blue circuits. Okay, so they come over... Engines, that's the, I think that's a blue science. Oh no, that's electric engines. Okay, for the robot frames. And then this comes down. Okay, so these things, I mean, no wonder I couldn't find them. They're made like on the other side of the map. Okay, they're made down here. So we have, of course, the local oil production again. Green, red, into blue. Very, very well done with the all-contained builds here. Plastic too, of course, made here. And then these are... Interested in how they do the sulfur, because sometimes I struggle with getting the sulfur into my blue science builds along with everything else, but Murphy did a good job here getting that in. And then yeah, so then that goes up to the yellow science, and we looked at that. We looked at steel. We looked at the low densities. So yellow science is here and then is sent out, I believe, down here on a merge belt with space science, which we're about to look at. So the ingredients for space science, of course, is a rocket launch. To get that rocket launch, we need rocket fuel, and then rocket control units, and also low density structures. So these low density structures are for science. Those are not for the rocket, as far as I can tell. These level 1 modules are for rocket control units, from what I can tell here. So if we zoom in, that's not modules. Oh, they're made right here. The icons are so small in the map view, it's hard to see. So the rocket control units are made here. Again, very good use of sharing like an input resource with an output resource. So the rocket control units pass through here over each other and then come up and sideload using a very neat underground merge trick here. This has been around forever, but I think some people still don't know about it. So what happens here is if you merge an underground like this, so if you send one, or it doesn't even have to be an underground. If you send just one belt into an underground belt like this, you can see if we zoom in, well, we are zoomed in all the way. If we, you can see that this is like the blue circuit there is basically hitting the side flap, which means that that won't ever merge onto here. So the only thing that's going to merge on is what's in the right lane here. And then that's how you get like a combined belt to just being the right side going onto this belt. So the rocket control units are on here, which are sent over. And there's some rocket silos. Obviously not all of them. They actually need 40 rocket silos. So you can see how far this extends. So there's that. There's our control units. This is for satellites. We might as well look at this. So accumulators and solar panels are both made in this area, I believe. Yeah, right? Well, there's that. These are made over here. Sorry. So these are made over here and then sent over. All these weaving belts are really interesting, but also very hard to follow. And then these come down and go to satellites and then the accumulators as well. And then the other stuff they need is belted in, so we can see like loads structures are over here for the satellites. They kind of just pass through. They obviously are going to other things as well. And then same with the rocket fuel. And then these come up to silos. So there's like 3 silos if we zoom out here. So there's essentially like a set of 3 silos per thing. So we have solar panels on the left, accumulators on the right, silos in the middle. Yeah, silos in the middle here. And then rocket control units are like down here for it. And these low densities may actually be for more than just yellow science. I believe I actually misspoke there potentially. Yeah, it looks like they are. Yeah, so the low density structures by yellow science also feed this, which is really nice. And yeah, yellow science is an exception where like the materials aren't all directly inserted into it, right? Because we're obviously belting up the blue circuits and the low density structures and all that other stuff. They did say that I think for this and the purple science, to some degree, they weren't able to really make it work. So these are more standard beacon designs, like 11, standard-ish. But yeah, 11 beacon, I guess, is a very standard thing for some megabases. But yeah, and then if we zoom out here, we can see that there's just a bajillion of these rockets. So there's 3, 6, 9, 12, 24, 36, 40s down here because they go out this way too. So it adds up. Like, I may not have counted right, but it does add up because they need, actually, I think they need 41 technically because you always need like 1 more than the amount you're doing for science. So this entire section over here is a combined yellow science and rocket silos and launching, which is really smart, right? Because yellow science uses materials that the rocket also uses, so it was very smart to combine them here. I actually wouldn't have really considered that myself, obviously, until I just realized it. So that's very smart. So all this stuff is belted over here. So we can look at these belts, and that's again to space and yellow science, which come all the way out to here. A little zigzag there, come over to here, go down. And then this is all the sciences. So we have red, green, blue, purple, space, and yellow science all here. And these come down. We can see, I love this like merge area though. It's pretty cool. And then we come down, and this is our lab setup. So the lab setup feeds these in. So we kind of just use a priority split off here to split part of it off. And, you know, it's pretty straightforward. So when you're not doing military, you don't need the extra belt. So you just have 3 belts here for 6 sciences, which is really nice. And these are just passed through. Very simple lab build here. Just enough to do the job. And this is a standard, I say standard 12 beacon setup. So because 12 beacon is a very, very common setup. So what we can do now is if I just go out of the editor, I'm way down here. Or up here, rather. But I will attempt to get out of here, and then we can see if... I'm going to see if maybe I can do this command one more time and have it at least temporarily reveal this. Because I want to, at the very least, show the labs while they're working. So we can see here, the UPS goes down when I go into map view, but... so yeah, the labs are working. This is just cranking out science like ridiculous. So speed 18 is 500 million science packs. Robot speed 18, 500 million science packs, and they were up to mining productivity 200, which is 500,000. Like comparatively, that's not a lot, but that's still a lot. They didn't do obviously any military, but robot speed 18, man, that is so fast. If we look at these stats here. Robots move at 1,000%, and this is just to consume the science. Like, they're not even using robots at all in this map. But, you know, you only have so many infinite sciences, so you gotta use the science when you're when you're doing it. So at 40K a minute, it's still going to take quite a while. You know, 500 million is no small amount, but it will get there eventually. And overall, this is a very, very impressive base. Again, I do apologize for the kind of wonkiness with the tour. I'm not quite used to it. It's understandable why they don't have radars, but it's different than I'm used to, so we kind of had to just go with it there. Overall, this is a crazy, crazy scale of a base, 40,000 science per minute. If we open the production window, you can see here that they've done 1 billion iron. So, like I said, this map has like 400 and some odd hours on it. Yeah, almost 450. I would imagine, based on these production numbers, that a lot of that, probably the majority of that, was designing and not actually running this, because if there was even like 300 hours of playtime with a production level of like 2.8, how much is this telling me? Okay, sorry, 2.8 million a minute. This is ridiculous. I don't know if I've ever spotlighted a base this big. Maybe. I think maybe Faulkner's. Yeah, but at 2.8 million iron a minute, if this base were running for actually running for 300 hours, we'd be way above 1 billion iron. So it's probably not actually been running that long. And you can see we just ticked another % on robot speed, even despite how expensive it is. But yeah, so almost 3 million iron a minute, over 2 million copper a minute, over 1 million circuits a minute, 0.5 mil on plastic, almost 0.5 mil, over 1/4 mil on steel. Same with red circuits. That's insane. Like 300,000 red circuits a minute. Holy cow. 40 some odd thousand blue circuits. So if we actually do look at all time though, you can see these stats. Yeah, I mean, these are actually very low considering. I would imagine it's probably not run for actually that long at all. If we look at the science pack totals, like this is a very, very modest amount for the, for the amount it's been running. In fact, if we look, I bet you if we look at like 50 hours, yeah, you can see this hasn't even been running for 50 hours because we can, over 50 hours, it's only been at 1.3K science per minute average. If it had been running fully for 50 hours, it would, of course, be at 40,000. So this base has not actually been up and running super long. I would imagine give it like 100 hours and these all-time numbers will just be through the roof. I mean, they already are very high, but overall, very impressive base. Thank you so much to Murphy for submitting it to me, and we just ticked another %. This is crazy. Even at 30 UPS, we're running at half speed. Like, the game is literally, this is why I'm so slow. The game is literally running at half of its speed. But yeah, awesome base. Thank you so much for submitting. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I would love to hear your thoughts down below. There will be more base tours. I am starting to get around to these instead of Reddit weeklies every couple weeks here. But I think that's going to do it for me. If you did enjoy it, a like is appreciated. If you're new to the channel and want to see more content like this, definitely subscribe and turn on notifications to be notified when more stuff comes out. I think that'll do it. Thanks so much, everyone, and I will see you in the next one.